This is a topic that I have been working on since 2019. I started my doctoral program. I'm a doctoral candidate, and I've been working on developing this idea of how are leaders developed. And there's 3 dimensions of leadership that is discussed in this book. It's called the Handbook of Leadership Theory and Practice. And the topics discussed are about leadership. There's 3 dimensions of knowing, being, and doing. And the questions that I was working with was, who is a leader? What is leadership? What is leadership development? And what does a leader look like? Do you all consider yourself leaders? You're a leader of a family unit, perhaps? A leader of yourself, right? But when you think of a leader, when you hear, oh, that person's a leader, usually the idea is that someone's holding a position, right? But as I'm going through this, keep this in mind that you're all leaders. Whether it's leading yourself, leading others, or leading organization, country, community. How are leaders made? Usually there's a divided idea. Some people think that leaders are born. And then another school of thought is that leaders can be made. Okay? There's a trait theory. Someone who's charming, who can get their way, and people want to follow them. And then there is the behavioral, where you know how to manage yourself. You can reflect on how you carry yourself. You have the social awareness, you have the emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and you can carry yourself in a way that people are like, oh, that person's great, I want to be like them. There's divided practices, divided thoughts between economists, psychoanalysts, psychologists. So the 5 articles in that book that I just showed you kind of divide these. Some people think that leaders are made, and some people think leaders are born. But they all have this idea that there's 3 dimensions. There's being, doing, and knowing. And each one of these aspects carry a different weight. Being, okay. So what is being? We all have leadership. When you go into college or high school or meeting in an office, you carry yourself through what you have learned in your childhood, right? Maybe you were told that you are a leader in your grade school, or your parents were working on a farm and you were leading the group of think about all the things you did from childhood that prepared you for leading, whether it's family or a community. No amount of teaching can prepare you for leadership. It's something that you have within yourself, right? That's being. Knowing is that liminal state between being a leader and doing what leadership requires you to do. Knowing is a place where you are trying to leave behind. There's some things that your family taught you. You're like, okay, this is not politically correct. This is not the right way of, talking to people, or these ideas are archaic. I do not rely with that. So the knowing is a state you are trying to leave behind what you knew and to become a better version of yourself. So these are ideas, beliefs, anything that you held on to from the time that you grew up to now that you are preparing yourself for leadership. And doing is the process of actually leading, and that itself takes a while. That takes decades to build. We call this the leadership maturation. You cannot go to a workshop for a 3-day, learn about leadership, or have a feel-good book that is included in the workshop and say that you are a leader, right? It takes work. And what doing really is developing other leaders. Once you have learned how to lead, once you have learned how to be a leader, how do you want your mark in the world? You want to be able to mentor others. You want to be able to prepare future leaders. And that's the aspect of doing that carries on your own identity as you are leaving, maybe through retirement or retiring or leaving a job, how do you make a difference? That's the aspect of doing. So if you want to kind of see how I describe this, I created this triangle of leader development from this the 5 articles. And I thought that the basis, being, is the key. Right? It keeps you in your identity. It's internal. Your self-confidence, how you interact with the world. Do you want to be a doormat? People will throw things at you, right? Followers have lots of needs. People who are, like, if you're in an organization and you're leading, leaders want you to do a certain thing. Followers want something from you. Everybody has needs. You have to take care of yourself as well. So if you are not confident in yourself, how do you think you will engage the world? So being is the foundation of leading. Knowing is a transitional space where you are like, okay, this is something I know. I tried it. If it works, great. If not, I'm going to leave that behind. And then I'm going to move on to learn something new. Doing is the part of where you are a self-transformed leader. You know yourself. You know what actions you can take. You are ready to pivot. You are adaptive, socially aware, right? All those aspects of how many leaders do you know right now that you say, okay, that is a bad leader. I don't want to be like that. In our country, in government, in your community, right? So these are the aspects of leadership. And then, here's why I think being is important. Being is something that's developed in your personal environment. It is reaction to learned behavior. And typically, what you learn as in your childhood, and there's research on this, psychoanalysts talk about this, is as a baby, as a child, how you engaged and got attention from your caregivers is what you will use to get attention when you're an adult. You have seen some adults who act like children. They get what they want because of the force they use, right? So being is about being confident, socialized to an idea that you want to better your life. You know what your boundaries are. If you have not developed those, then you cannot be a good leader. And leadership education prepares you for the knowing part and the doing part. I myself am in the leadership education program at Seattle University, and there's not enough, especially with COVID, there's not enough practice. You cannot go and do an internship, or there's not even resources to send someone out to do internship. So this is really a discourse I want you to also be engaged in thinking. If you are interested in leadership or in the study of leadership, is what are the things we can do to prepare people for being. Being is something not read about. How do educators engage people in a way that they leave their classroom or they graduate and feel that they are confident in who they are and how they're going to lead? So leadership is critical, not only for yourself. If you are leading a family even, if you make mistakes, then people who are relying on you are harmed, right? If a parent cheats, children are impacted. If a leader in an organization defrauds the system, everybody's investigated, right? So thinking about why is being important, it is the basis of how you lead yourself and how you lead in an organization, how you lead in a family. And anything you do, if a leader is self-aware and self-reflective, anything that they do, they know that there is going to be an impact on everybody else. And that a lot of people do not think about that. A lot of people know that if I take a mass call in a company, I may be graduated to be a supervisor. I can apply to be a supervisor. If I produce more, I may be a supervisor, right? But if you are not aware of yourself, you can know to do the job, but you won't know how to lead. In order to lead, you need to be working with people. And for that, you need a certain level of awareness. I want to leave you with this poem. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it was difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town, and as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realized the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly, I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have had an impact on my family and I could have had an impact on our town. Their impact could have changed the nation, and I could indeed have changed the world. So it's a long road ahead. We all have to do our part. I want to leave you with a thought of how you're going to better yourself so you can reflect what a leader looks like, not only in your family unit, but your workspace. As far as my part goes, as I said, I've been working on this for a while. I have a book coming out in late January on self-mastery, sustenance for a nourished life, a beginner's guide to self-mastery. And it talks about resilience and forgiveness, and so just how to better yourself. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's easy for me to understand the concept of being a leader in an organization, and also because I'm a father, it's easy to understand being a leader as a father, right? You just kind of you figure it out, right? In the beginning, you don't know what you're doing, and you end up kind of being a leader of your family. But can you explain a little bit more about what it means being a leader of yourself?
Being a leader of yourself is really being thoughtful on how your actions impact others. And it's so easy to try to see that you can use violence, and not only violence physically, but violence with your words to get what you want. Right? You can complain about someone who made a barista making a coffee a certain way, and then you have yelled and shouted and made their day bad. A leader of self is more of okay, you are aware of what's going on internally, and being able to mindfully speak, because whatever you do, your actions have a reaction to others. And by making someone else's day bad, you really have not only made yourself feel bad, but you have affected someone else, and that carries into the rest of the day. So mindfully being adaptive to the situation and having patience.
Thank you.